You can laugh nervously as much as you want because you're being exposed in 4K for being a brainless
I've seen
dipshit,
your
okay?
penis
But
in real
literally,
life.
we've
I've seen your
Think studies including R squared
Listen to
variables.
fuck
But you can't
you
even.
little autism
Your
brain
claim,
is thinking too fast. You can't listen.
You've got an out for everything. There's literally nothing that somebody can say because it's either like, well, they've got the power to do everything, or well, in that particular case, they didn't want to go far enough. And I was like, well, the media lied about it because academia lies about it because the entire deep state is lying about it. And it's like, but not that much because you have an out for everything.
Okay, so our topic is going to be big tech censoring, cancel culture, and deplatforming. Since these are all people with pretty big platforms, I'm sure it's touched everybody in one way or another. I know that conservatives have felt they have been specifically targeted for this, but two of our guests here from the opposite ends of the spectrum have both recently lost platforms with pretty big following. So I wanted to start with both Destiny and Alex to have them explain what happened with their platform, give everyone a little backstory, how many followers you guys lost, and how it's affecting you and where you go from here. So why don't we start with Destiny and then we'll go to Alex.
I mean, I've been kind of sort of permanently banned off of Twitter, and my Twitch channel is unpartnered and then gets banned every now and then from some dumb stuff, usually related to political stuff. Yeah, I don't know how much more you might have gone to that.
Okay, Alex, what happened to you?
Yeah, I got banned off TikTok recently. It's kind of how it is, man. It's happened like 4 or 5 times. The shadow bans are also a thing. TikTok's probably the worst when it comes to censorship. It's like absolutely wild. And it's not just like outright bans, but they like obviously the shadow bans, which they absolutely deny and will tell you that you're insane when suddenly one day 200,000 people decide to stop watching your videos, and it's just only the people who follow you who are allowed to see your videos. They just all chose to do that at once. You're insane. There's no censorship or any suppression happening whatsoever.
Okay. And so, Hunter, I know you've gotten into some debates about whether or not conservatives have been censored more than liberals. And I know you used to be a conservative yourself. So if you want to go into a little bit of what you found researching the stuff, and if you think that conservatives are being targeted more, and if you noticed any changes in your own platform as you've shifted content to the left.
Yeah, sure. So I think a lot of the times when we have these arguments, people tend to misunderstand where I'm coming from. I think that conservatives have absolutely been banned by big tech on multiple different occasions. Obviously, I'm not going to deny that. The question really comes down to, is there any algorithmic bias suppressing people for holding conservative views? Or is there any kind of, I guess I would say, systemic kind of bias towards people for holding conservative views? And that is where I would say absolutely not. In fact, there's most of the data, if not all, heavily suggests that right-wingers perform better on virtually every social media platform. And that's because the way these algorithms work, it propels content that is sensational and divisive. So the conversation, I really want to make sure I'm being clear here. I don't think that conservatives have never been banned by big tech. I just think that there's no actual bias towards people for holding conservative views, and any kind of disproportionate banning is probably because of TOS violations. So, yeah.
All right, thank you. And then I'm just going to ask one more question to both John and Mouthy, and then I think we could just open up the floor and have a conversation. But, I know that with Trump, he was recently banned from everything, but they were talking about trying to lift that ban, and I guess they didn't. But I am wondering if you guys, from both the left and right point of view, think that they should be banning Trump, and I don't know, just what your stance is on that, and if these social media platforms are failing because of him, because I know that they like to say that quite a bit. So, Mouthy, if you want to go first.
Whether or not they should have banned Trump is kind of like a weird thing for me, because I kind of feel like deplatforming can be justified if somebody is like spreading a lot of like just false information, conspiracy theories, etc. And Trump was certainly doing that. So I think there's justified reason to deplatform him. But on the other hand, I mean, he's a former president of the United States. He can go on Fox News whenever he wants to. I don't think we're going to, in any meaningful way, curb President or former President Trump's ability to like spread disinformation and harm the sort of general political discourse. So I kind of feel like banning Trump is more of just a virtue signal than anything, but I don't really have strong feelings about it one way or another.
What about you, John? Because I also know that didn't you used to you had more of a Star Wars channel before, but what happened with that? You stopped talking about it.
Yeah, I just shifted as time went on. So, I mean, as far as the Trump thing goes, I definitely think that you know, you need solid grounds to ban somebody, and of course, you know, there's the grounds are, of course, like I guess it gets in this muddled. You're kind of in this muddled ground where it seems like what exactly counts as disinformation? Where do you draw the line? And so I think as far as Trump getting banned, especially not letting him back on, I think it's just bad for the platform in general. I think it's in Twitter's best interest to have Trump on their platform, and just like CNN. You know, they're missing Trump by, what is it, 50% of their ratings are down by 50%. I think it's bad for Twitter too.
Yeah, I don't know if I mean, now we don't have Nick, but for Wurzel, do you think that conservatives are we can kind of just go into open discussion, by the way, but do you think that conservatives are actually targeted because of their views, or do you think that it's
yeah it's just like you know, like as I said, I think TikTok's the worst when it comes to like censorship and it's just like an absolute lived reality, right? You know, I don't have a study saying that I get fucking banned 37 times a day, but I do live in the world where posting even the most mundane, like, you know, I read the fucking terms of service like 7 times because I've been banned like
so
7
long.
times, right? No, I read it because I'm a little fucking dweeb, you know, and I kept getting all my videos taken down. And, you know, I'm not violating anything. It's not even like close to violating anything. And still every single video gets taken down. They will put your videos into review before you even fucking post them when they flag your channel as you know, bad opinions or whatever the fuck. You know, like, and like, you know, I'm involved with some like big guys up there, right? Like Republican Hype House guys with like millions of followers, and you know, they have a contact in TikTok. This is kind of like inside info, but they sort of just tell them to go fuck themselves every time they appeal for a ban. And then like other left wing people who have similar contacts, they'll just like hit them up every time. Like unironically, right? I was in conversations with report appeals on TikTok, and I was trying to convince them that I was a left-wing satirist who was actually a transsexual the entire time. And I swear to God, I would tell them that I'm gay over and over again, and they would unban my videos. Like, it worked. It worked. I would literally in the appeals just type, "I'm gay. Why are you discriminating against me?" And they would reverse the ban on all my videos. It you know, it just happens. I think it happens on the left wing too, right? Because it's not really like a left or right issue. I think it's like there's a bunch of you know, one party people, you know, a bunch of these fucks taking money from the special interest groups and shit, who really want this like status quo of like shitty America to continue. And anyone on the left or right who like fucks around with their little status quo mono narrative, they start getting fucked up the ass pretty hard.
Okay. Well, so this is, by the way, you guys, this is open discussion, so we can just kind of jump in if you want to talk. But
yeah, can I just say really quickly, in terms of what John said about there's not really like a super definable line with regards to what counts as disinformation. It's true that whenever you put in place a policy, there are going to be sort of places where that policy or that definition gets kind of fuzzy. However, when you're the president of the United States and you're spreading conspiracy theories about the election being stolen despite your own Department of Justice, your own handpicked judges, like in pretty much every single credible person in the world disagreeing with you. I think that wherever we want to draw that line, I think that probably crosses it. And with regards to what Alex said, I just want to say I think it's incredibly ironic to hear a right-winger talking about how lived reality should trump empirical data.
I don't know if you guys.
Who the
want to
fuck
go.
eats
Would you
pepperoni
say
pizza? That's my response. Who the fuck eats Hey, did you order a pepperoni? You called them up and you asked for a fucking pepperoni pizza? Like,
All right,
what
let's
are you
try to
doing?
act like
That's
adults
right.
here and talk a little
Yeah,
bit.
I think it's really hard to design like any type of like TOS. It's not going to seem like it discriminates against conservatives, since the whole party is like batshit insane when we look at things like conspiracy theories or like biases or whatever. Like if you have like rules where it's like, oh, like you can't spread harmful conspiracy theories, like I mean that kind of like de facto discriminates against conservatives, since like half of them are bought into like this fucking insane QAnon shit, or a lot of them think that the election was stolen, or like a lot of them like don't think vaccines are real. Like, so I mean, like in terms of like, is there a bias? Like, yeah, I mean, but I mean, in terms of like, how do you actually like address stuff like that? That seems to be like a very, very tricky question that like most of America is kind of asking right now. Like, what do we do about the conservative question right now in the United States is a difficult one.
Right.
Yeah, meanwhile,
Is your
we had
method
Russian
working?
collusion. Yeah, go ahead.
Is your method working though? You know, you deplatform people and then they just like make new platforms. By fucking with people in this manner,
Nobody's
you're
going
just
to bitch you,
radicalizing
though.
them further.
That's
No,
not
no one's
actually
going to
really
bitch you,
true
but they're
either.
going to Gab. They're
No,
going to
that's-
fucking
that's-
Facebook.
the
They're
truth is-
making
How
thing
many
is
people are on
deplatforming-
Gab?
Deplatforming definitely.
Wait, wait,
So
one at a
Gab
time.
is actually like such a failed. I don't know why we bring up Gab. Gab is such a failed platform. Like Milo Yiannopoulos left for that like a year or two ago and was like crying and complaining that nobody went there. Deplatforming seems to work insofar as it like gets people not noticed as much online. I don't know how much it changes the average American's opinion. I personally am not in favor of deplatforming. I'm just saying that it's pretty hard. Like I can understand if you run a company, like I wouldn't want to host people talking about how like vaccines don't fucking work or that like the election was fucking stolen. Like I can have some empathy for the people that run these platforms here. But I mean, anytime you talk about conspiracy theory, you're like almost massively going to disproportionately like ban conservatives for it. I don't know what the solution is to that problem.
Some other people were trying to talk. I don't want to.
Yeah, I know there was a few people trying to say something. Oh, Hunter, did you want to go next?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I guess like Alex, you seem to be pretty convinced about the bias towards conservatives, and I definitely think that like I kind of want to piggyback off a little bit what Destiny said, I guess, is yeah, it is definitely challenging because that line is subjective. Where you draw that line is definitely a challenge. And I think that it's about like, I guess just recognizing, right, that, yeah, what I'm going to go ahead and kick this back to Destiny. I'm sorry. I kind of forgot what Alex's claim was. Please, I'm sorry. Go on. Trying to take the more chill approach and maybe a little too chill.
Okay. I mean, don't kick it back to me because I wasn't kicking anything right now. So I said what I was going to say.
Truly
yeah,
an epic
sure.
point. I feel thoroughly debunked myself.
Thank you.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's
so-
not, I mean, like we can talk about like any number of like conspiracy theories we want. I mean, like somebody brought up the Russian collusion stuff. I guarantee that whoever brought it up probably doesn't know anything about it. I mean, we can talk about that.
I bet
I
I
mean,
know
we can-
more than you, but anyway, what the point was, like whether it's sharing fake news from Syria, it kind of seems like certain fake news is okay. Listen, I've given up all my social media, so I don't give a fuck one way or another, but it is funny that we're allowed to peddle certain fake stories and then other fake stories are. But like,
Yeah, like what kind of like fake stories are allowed to be peddled? What do you mean by
okay,
that?
let's talk about Syria when ABC put fucking gun range video from fucking Kentucky and said that the Kurds were being massacred. That was a mainstream media that just pumped this thing. I know they apologized a couple days later, but once the genie's out of the bottle, there's no putting it back in. So
Okay, but like,
it's just-
is there a punishment to like? Is that like in any TOS where like, oh well, if you like mislabel something, if you show something,
I
like, you
don't,
get
I don't know if
Well, that's kind of what we're
showing-
that's like the
if
subject of what we're
showing
talking about, right?
footage from Kentucky and
Mhm.
saying that it's from Syria, I would think that would violate the same fake news narrative. But again, I don't.
I don't know of any platform right now that says that like fake news is banned. That's not in the TOS of any platform that I'm aware of.
Right. Okay.
Well, all right. In like principle, right? And you know, I feel like Destiny's a bit on board with this, given his own like getting fucked up. But like, conspiracy theories and shit like that, if it's so crazy, it's so retarded, why would you not want it to be like an open pit? And I know that there's always going to be dumbasses who believe whatever the fuck. But I would much rather see people get pummeled into submission and make their entire ideology a joke rather than we just give it into the hands of corporations in order to dictate to us.
People
what is
say
true
that,
and
but
what is false.
clearly that doesn't work, right? I think it's isn't it some 48% of the Republican Party right now believes that the election was stolen? So clearly that's a massive number of Americans. So clearly that idea doesn't work. And the election fraud shit is something that has been debunked in more ways than could ever be debunked possible. We have multiple 3-letter agencies coming out. A lot of these with department heads picked by Trump. You've got Trump's federal judges that have gone through all of these cases over and over again. You've got a number of other media outlets, both mainstream and alternative, and in other countries. This has been debunked more fucking ways than you could ever debunk something, and there's still a fuck ton of people that believe it. So clearly the idea let's just bring them out into the sunlight and let the crazies get weeded out doesn't seem to be something that works with Republicans. So
I also want to say really quickly that another problem is I mean, sure, we can say why not just let people spread blatant misinformation and just factually inaccurate shit so that we can debunk it? But the problem is why would we want to waste our time debunking factually incorrect shit when if we didn't have to deal with that shit, we could actually talk about interesting things that could actually be fruitful in some genuine way.
Yeah, so we'll just have what is reality decided for us, and then anyone who disagrees with the reality that we assert, we fucking ban them and make it so that they can't talk on the internet.
Again, I don't think you don't get banned from talking about flat Earth or people listening. I don't think you get banned for fake news. I don't know where this narrative came from or whatever, but I don't think that's the case. But the problem is that so there's kind of two separate discussions happening here on what should the TOS be or whatever versus fake news. But the idea is that they're for certain groups of people, what is reality isn't something that they very much care about, right? It's usually just whatever plays into my particular ideological basis. And the idea that if we just platform more and more of this stuff on social media, it'll go away. I mean, that doesn't seem to be the case so far. I don't see why we would expect it to change.
If we want to talk about sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. In some cases, it seems they're only adding credibility to theories though when they do ban something, right? Because it's the moment they step in, ban it, all of a sudden it looks what's your reason here? And of course the narrative goes see, they're afraid of truth. That's why they're banning it. So that's another problem that you have
in the world to talk about shit, right? Trump could talk about whatever he wanted in his rallies across social media. Trump wasn't banned on Twitter forever, right? So, I mean, it doesn't seem like they didn't need the credibility of being banned back then. They still believed everything that Daddy Trump said. So,
I mean, I also feel just a large percentage of the Republican electorate is so deranged that I mean, do you really think that there was a substantial number of people who were no, I don't think the election was rigged, despite the crazy propagandizing from Trump and so on. And then as soon as Twitter banned him, that's what pushed it over the edge. I don't feel that's a actual substantial problem.
Right. And another thing that's really important, too, is that a lot of these bad ideas and these conspiracy theories lead to genuine harm to the world. So, I mean, January 6th is a perfect example, right, of repeated brainwashing and conspiracy theories about this stolen election. A lot of it was fueled by Donald Trump, and that led to a violent outbreak.
Getting shot by the police, and then a few people having boomer heart attacks.
Well, what do you mean, dude? That's
really the worst,
shot by the cops,
worst thing that's ever happened since the Civil War.
What do you mean?
Well, I don't think it was more so that a woman got shot. I think it was more so that we had people that wanted to break into the Capitol building and try to overthrow a government. And it seems like there are a surprising number of people in the Republican Party that would support that. I think that's the more shocking. Even if 20 people died, who the fuck cares? It's not a matter of who died or not. I think it's just the idea that a riot was literally championed by the president of the United States to overthrow the government, whether it was successful or not.
Well, it wasn't championed, right? And he said no. He said go home.
It was.
Hey, listen.
It was
guys,
the most
he said go home. OJ said he didn't kill that girl. Cosby said he didn't rape those women. If we want to read things,
he was exonerated.
Wait, when did he say?
In the impeachment trial? So you guys have been debunked on that one. Also, are we really saying violence is the ultimate bad thing that happens?
Republicans had a majority in the Senate. Of course, he got exonerated in the impeachment trials. How do you think that's
relevant? Really saying, sir, that the media had nothing to do, and the media frenzy around George Floyd, Black Lives Matter, all these offenses, all the fake hate crime hoaxes which are coming out, that had nothing to do with cities being burned for fucking months. That had nothing to do with thousands of different fucking instances of Black Lives Matter. It's not just violent.
I mean, you can like
just right wing, and those actually killed fucking people. We didn't just get murdered by police, all right? But violence, violence is the ultimate bad thing. But you know, it doesn't matter when it's your boys, eh?
I specifically said it wasn't about violence. It was the idea that the president of the United States was championing people to try to overthrow the government.
No, actually, Destiny, I think that's a valid point. I don't think you've been vocal enough about being anti-rioting.
True, good one. But like, regardless, yeah, I think the idea is it's not really a matter of the violence committed or the amount of violence. That's a separate discussion. I think it's the idea that the president of the United States was like championing people to try to overthrow the government. I think that's a big problem. I think that should concern probably every actual American that cares about the strength of our federation and everything.
At what point would you say that he did that, though?
When the president of the United States is saying that your elections are not trustworthy, and he's saying that there is a conspiracy along with the leading other party, like the Democrats and everybody in media, to try to disenfranchise your vote, and that nobody in government can be trusted, that nobody in academia can be trusted, I think that you've created sufficient conditions such that it seems like the only logical next step is probably rioting or probably trying to overthrow the government. Like that morning, he even tweeted out that Pence couldn't be trusted anymore, his own vice president.
Yeah, and just a really quick add on that, if we want a direct quote, Trump literally said, if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
Yeah, like he.
So how do you want to interpret that?
It's such a dumb thing to argue about.
Let's go in front of the Capitol and peacefully protest. Another direct quote from
he said go march.
That was after they were already in there. Like, it was kind of a little late for that, right?
No, it wasn't. It was at the end of his rally, you fucking dweebus. No, it was at the end of his rally. The last sentence he said, he said it. Rewatch his fucking speech that he gave before.
So, but the problem is that saying let's be peaceful once, after for months building this grand narrative about how the election was stolen from him by like the evil deep state and Hugo Chavez fucking vote counters. I mean, that's not really gonna like mean much. Like the amount of people who heard him say let's be peaceful is a lot smaller than the amount of people who heard him say all the other shit, which would lead them to think that the correct course of action is to storm the Capitol in order to overturn the results of a legitimate democratic election.
Or why were they marching then if they didn't think that Daddy Trump wanted them to?
Well, they were there to protest.
Why did they go into the Capitol building? What were they protesting?
The Capitol Police let them into the Capitol building.
What were they protesting? Capitol Police didn't let them in.
That's not true either. I'm gonna go actually get
the DC Police or the Capitol Police, whatever you want to call them, did not let them in. They broke in.
The DC Police did, and the service was down, so they didn't have communication lines.
They broke in. We've
lines.
You can't lie about this because there's more video footage of this than probably any event in like modern American history.
I saw it with my eyeballs, though.
Okay, that you probably saw that there were.
Did I have my eyes closed, dude? What the fuck was going on? Did I have my X-ray goggles and I was looking at people like fucking Spider-Man or something? Like, what?
It's not about X-ray. What am I talking about? What are you talking about?
Please move the fucking gates with my eyes, dude.
Yeah, I know. So I know what you
saw.
Bring me your fucking
study, dude.
We all saw. You can laugh nervously as much as you want because you're being exposed in 4K for being a brainless dipshit.
I've seen your penis. But literally, I've seen your penis on a picture of it. It's tiny.
How is that a literally? First of all, my dick is not tiny. Thank you.
You posted on the forums. You hate when people talk about it.
I don't hate you. We can talk about my dick all you want. I don't give a fuck. If you want to spend 2 hours talking about my dick,
yeah, I do.
I love talking about dicks. That's fine. We can do it all you want.
Yeah.
But let's before we move to that topic, I didn't know that was on the discussion panel tonight. So the video that you're referring to, and if you want to go watch it, you can go watch it again. The DC police or the Capitol Police did not just let the protesters in. They didn't open the gates. There were already protesters behind there. You can see aerial footage. They'd already swarmed the Capitol.
I'm talking about my eyeballs being there in person.
Okay, but the problem is
no one cares. If you were there in person, then you probably know less than the people that watch the videos then, because you only had one perspective. There's like 50 million hours of footage.
I watch CNN, sir. I know a lot of it.
No one is talking about CNN. We've got videos on Twitter. We've got Fox. We've got CNN, MSNBC. There's a million fucking media outlets that all came from your guys' cell phones. Okay?
So it goes from no police officers whatsoever let people in to, there's different footage. You just got to believe me, dude. I was there.
It's kind of like saying, like, if you go to a bar and you beat up the bouncer and then then the bouncer's like, oh fuck, like whatever, like going. You're like, oh, the bouncer let me in. LOL. Like what kind of
When
delusional
Ashley
reframing
Babbitt
is this?
was shot, there was police officers standing there talking to them in the crowd of people moving forward. You see it in the video. There's two.
Yeah, that crowd. What
and then
that
there's
was is
Secret
that,
Service in there.
what that actually was.
the
Hold on,
same.
I just looked this up. This was standard protocol when they're getting overwhelmed. They're supposed to actually like step back when they're
Yeah, no
outnumbered and
shit, because they don't
overwhelmed.
have the numbers to fight at all the barricades. Any reasonable, like, non-dipshit human knows this. Obviously, they broke in, right?
Well, this guy is a dipshit though, so
Well,
I'm just,
yeah,
I'm
I
trying to help
know,
him out.
Hunter Avallone.
Were the
Saying my name and laughing is not a roast, buddy. If anything, it's actually
It is,
a
dude. It
win
is
for me.
If I called
man.
someone
Like,
Hunter Avallone, they'd be offended.
Wait,
That's
Alex,
true.
Alex, were the
That's
cops
true.
at the Capitol intentionally like helping people smash through the fucking windows as well, or was that like
was
fake
much later.
footage?
That was
Oh, that
much
was
later.
way later.
Why does that matter though?
Because the point I was making was there's communication differences, and everyone was not on the same page. That's why it turned into a clusterfuck.
No one was on the same page when people started to break into the Capitol. No one here disagrees with you.
Yeah, wait, what is
That's
that
the
point?
different
Wait,
police
what is the
were-
relevance of that?
The different
Of course
police
people aren't
didn't
on the same
understand.
page.
There were certain cops and certain different, like I think DC police were the ones who were letting people in, taking selfies with people. It's literally like a boomer rally. Like the
wait,
fact
that
you
DC
guys
police
have,
guy got. Oh, he was literally like, I think he was fired and maybe even indicted.
yeah, afterwards.
Yeah.
We're
Wait,
talking about people
So what,
on the
but how
ground
does
in
that
real
prove
life.
your point? Like this was like
That there
one-off
was
thing.
confusion. They didn't know what the fuck was going
There
on.
was
We all know that.
confusion. There was confusion. They didn't know there was going to be a fucking riot. That was the
Indeed,
confusion.
indeed. We're all on the
Yes.
same page here.
That
yes.
was the confusion. Yes, not whether or not they were
a
supposed
million
to let them
people
in.
going to DC wasn't known. Oh, wait a minute. Because the Capitol Police was notified by Mario Bowser. So I don't want to get stuck on January 6th either. Like,
Talk about
this is
January 6th all you want, because I don't know if you guys have any idea what actually happened.
Well, I have.
I
the
think he just
DOD
likes to keep on
timeline. I
losing
can
over and over
post
again.
it for you too, because like I said, people did know that this many people were going to Washington. But again, there's really no sense of getting stuck on January 6th. But we can have a panel on that later. I'm down, because like I said, we have the DOD who days before was asking for the National Guard and was denied. But anyway, I digress.
So I guess for anybody honest, doesn't know. So the problem with the communication is that Bowser fucked up, and she was worried that she was going to recreate like a Lafayette Square. She didn't want National Guard people there because she thought it'd be a bad look, and they thought the Capitol Police could handle everything that happened. And they weren't ready for the scale, the number of people that showed up, and how violent they would be. That's what happened on that day. It's like you can go and look at all the statements, all the communication, everything that happened. That is what happened on that day. That's where the coordination problems was. It wasn't about letting them in. Nobody thought they should ever let protesters into the fucking Capitol or anything like that.
Okay, man. Tech censorship.
Back to tech censorship.
Yeah.
And bring your
Do we need
studies,
to have, like,
Alex.
do
You
we
better
wanna
have
start
your
at the-
fucking studies, buddy. Have your studies.
Yeah.
I don't know why people is it like a joke to bring up studies now? Is that what you guys do? Like laugh at
Well,
it?
it's just kind of
Or
weird.
we could say
like,
your name. I mean,
You-
Hunter
yeah.
Avallone, but
Yeah, it's kind of weird
okay,
that you
yeah,
threw
sure.
that in with your like intro or whatever. Oh, studies have proven, fucking
Yeah.
comprehensively that. But like even when you made that video, like that's a laughing stock video. You got like roasted like a million times, picked apart a million times, and you're like
I don't
still on that,
care.
just like
No,
pretending
I-
like it didn't happen.
That's because I'm right.
Like, you're
That's because I don't
incapable-
back down my positions when I get made fun of by like dipshits by you. So yeah, that's. I mean, I don't know what. Here's the thing. I think part
You
of the
went on
reason that-
TikTok
hold on, wait.
too,
Can
right?
I actually just respond here for just a
No,
second?
no, you went on.
Part of the
TikTok
problem here,
too,
I think,
right?
is that you think that literally, buddy.
Come on,
think
you
that-
got it, dude. I'm letting you speak. Come on.
Okay. I think that you genuinely think that I think big tech censorship never happens or something. Another thing being, even if I got picked apart or made fun of multiple times, that's irrelevant to me. Were any of the criticisms actually valid? No. So what are you saying? Do you think that there is an algorithmic bias against conservatives? And why are you so afraid of bringing up studies when it comes to this subject? I'd like to know.
I'm not afraid. I just like making fun of you, honestly. Like, I just think it's boring to if we're like Googling like 30 different studies that we haven't read and trying to use that validly in a fucking debate on the fly.
Wait,
it doesn't
Alex.
make any sense. If you want to
Alex,
come to these things with fucking studies saying, oh, look at all this bullshit, I'll bring one that says the other. It's just how it is.
I would
But
actually
I'm
be
talking
really
about
interested to
the
see a study that said otherwise,
Yeah.
because I've been looking for one. So that'd be actually really helpful if you had one. But yeah.
Well, none of the fucking information is out there. TikTok is telling me that shadow banning doesn't exist, even though I have seen 0%
Well, TikTok
for
is.
you
I'll be
page
honest.
for the last few
I will.
months, dude.
Listen. I will say that I'm not actually as familiar with TikTok. It's completely plausible that they are censoring political speech, especially considered they're a Chinese-owned company and they literally have like certain restrictions there.
Well, and also, no company is going to admit to shadow banning. Okay, it's the same thing when
Shadow banning, you guys. What is it? What is shadow banning?
So so colloquially, when people say shadow ban, typically what they're talking about is this idea that nobody gets to see your content because you've been like removed from the platform, but you're not really notified of this. So maybe on Instagram you post pictures and it doesn't go to anybody's feeds, or maybe on Twitter you tweet and nobody sees it on the timelines. Like this is like what people typically mean when they say shadow ban. But most companies will say they don't shadow ban, and truthfully, they probably don't. But what they actually do is they like massively deprioritize your content such that you're effectively shadow banned, but they can get around admitting to it because they're not actually shadow banning you. It's kind of like when companies say they don't throttle your internet. They probably don't throttle your internet. What they do is they deprioritize you on the node such that if anybody else is trying to access similar data pathways, your speed is limited so that other people can access the network, right? Like it's like they'll have like some technical way to kind of get around it, even though they're actually, effectively shadow banning. But like no company's going to come out and admit to shadow banning. I don't know if anybody does that.
Right. I think that there's absolutely a conversation too to be had about like the power that big tech has. I absolutely think that they do have too much power, and I want to have that conversation, but it's really challenging to have that conversation when you try to base it on an essentially a lie that conservatives are all being like disproportionately banned for being conservative.
I didn't say conservative. I said anyone who is contrary to the mono narrative of the political elite. And that's why I think Destiny got banned too.
What is the mono narrative of the political elite?
What does that even mean?
We need to go to war in the Middle East. We need tax cuts for millionaire corporations.
Is Joe Biden,
we need to
is
do
Joe
all this
Biden
stuff.
trying to pass tax cuts for corporations right now, or is he trying to propose like a pretty substantial tax increase both in terms of corporate taxes and the capital gains tax rate? Like, I don't think you know what you're talking about here.
Yeah, Trump's saying pretty hell-bent on Middle Eastern shit too. I mean,
Yes, indeed.
you
can't like box me into like one fucking little box of, oh, you're a Republican. Therefore, why aren't you supporting fucking corporate taxes?
Also,
no one is trying to
pulling out
box
of
you.
Afghanistan?
Hold on. You might have like the very binary mind state that it's like either Republican or Democrat, but you're talking about like some monoculture pushed by the political elite. I'm sorry. Do you believe that Trump was part of the monoculture of the political elite? Is that?
I don't think he was, but I think he was advised by like a bunch of dumb people, and I don't think he had a full grasp on the situation politically. I don't think he was prepared enough to deal with what was going on.
Can you talk a little bit about the structure of the political elite? Like, who are they? How do they control things? Where do they get their marching orders from? How do they decide what like the next monoculture is going to be?
I think it's a mutually beneficial relationship between these like pseudo aristocrats of like millionaires, like the senators, congressmen, these people who have a beneficial relationship with the money providers, which would be like NGOs, corporate lobbyists, foreign interest groups, stuff like that.
Can you like point to any, rather than using like a whole bunch of buzzwords? Do you have like anything more concrete you can point to, or? I talk about. No, I'm not. All right, friend. Yes, I'm going to eat my pizza and throw out claims of anti-Semitism. That's epic. No, I've done specifically a lot of research into Black Lives Matter, and they haven't released their most recent financial reports, but it's very clearly like a crazy scam. There's a lot of dark money involved. What do you mean?
Like, clearly how? Like, what's the evidence of that?
If you look at the income statements and stuff like that, they recently said that they profited 71 million from the last year, but that's not how it is. They're owned by I forget the name of the new company that owns them, but it's this NGO which has a lot of different investors from Acorn, and which is involved in Thousand Currents, which was essentially like a little base like split off, which previously owned financially controlled BLM Global, and via going through Act Blue, they can not claim money, and then Act Blue obviously gets it, and whatever money they claim does not go to Black Lives Matter Global or to the different divisions of Black Lives Matter Global, but rather to this financial overseer, which was previously Thousand Currents, and once that previously 1,000 Currents had it, and they then divvy up the money and will give it to Black Lives Matter Global, and not 100% of the money. Also, I believe the only financial reports we had last year was for 2019 under 1,000 Currents, right? And 89% or so of that went to like bullshit, like travel expenses, salaries, just all this different garbage, fucking consulting fees. And we only see like about 9%, I think, of legitimate like Black Lives Matter division spending. We have the same pattern for the new owners, obviously the same investors, the same money sources as 1,000 Currents. And so they got 70 million, but they probably got like 100, 200 million in bullshit expenses that didn't end up going to Black Lives Matter. It's just like all garbage. It's all garbage. And if you look at the new company,
Is Black Lives Matter a 501c3?
They do not have a 501c.
Then why does any of what you just said matter?
Because their financial sponsor does, and it is a
So
it's a charitable organization. It does not have the financial capabilities of being a nonprofit. That's why they have a financial sponsor, which is a nonprofit.
Okay, so has anybody submitted any of this stuff to a court to go through to see if any like malfeasance has occurred, or do you think the courts are all corrupt?
They have no responsibility to spend it wisely, and they have no responsibility to claim the money that is donated to them. If they do not claim after 30 days the money that is donated to them via Act Blue, then whatever money is not accepted is then accepted by Act Blue as defined in their terms of service on Act Blue, and is then spent generously to whatever different Democrats are in Act Blue, as Act Blue is only Democrat platform for fundraising.
So what's the problem thing here, or what's the bad thing that's happening?
He asked me how Black Lives Matter was a scam, or Black Lives Matter.
So it's a scam because if people donate money to Act Blue, if they don't claim it in time, it goes to other people that Act Blue sponsor. Is that a scam?
Act Blue is like a Patreon, right? So imagine people were donating.
Act Blue is like it's the fundraising platform that the Democratic Party uses, yeah. But I'm saying that like if you donate to BLM and you use the Act Blue platform, right? When you click donate on BLM, it takes you to the Act Blue page. Right? How is it a scam if they say that like if the money's not claimed or whatever, that it will default back to the Act Blue platform?
Well, no, I just think maybe it's not a scam because technically there's nothing illegal about it. I just think it's a lot of shady dark money shit. And really, when people are donating to assist Black lives, they're donating to give people caviar.
We keep using these buzzwords, okay? Dark money. It's not dark money, right? I'm pretty sure that most donations that go through Act Blue, I think that has to be publicly accounted for, right? These are FEC
The donations in do, but the money that is unclaimed by 1,000 Currents or the financial sponsor, Black Lives Matter, that is not tracked whatsoever.
When you donate to Act Blue, don't you always receive do you receive a receipt for that donation?
When you donate into it, it is tracked. They know who is donating into it due to financial security laws. But once the financial sponsor of Black Lives Matter on the other end says, we don't want this money, we don't want however much money, they don't track how much money is denied, and they also don't track where it is spent amongst Act Blue.
Okay. I mean, if it's not like a nonprofit reporting, then I wouldn't expect it to be, right? That's not standard for any company to release like a detailed financial statement saying where any of the money goes. But
if you think it's fine that upwards of 85% of the money intended for Black Lives Matter Global doesn't end up in the hands of Black Lives Matter chapters, then like that's your party, right? I don't care.
I mean, do you know on average for a charity that gets for like charitable donations, what percentage of that is spent on direct aid?
Well, there's a bunch of really garbage charities. Like I'm pretty cynical of charities in general. They generally do this similar thing of spending a lot of money on salaries and on consulting fees and on travel expenses. I think actually in 2019 they spent exactly as much on travel expenses as they did giving to Black Lives Matter local chapters. It's ridiculous stuff. Other charities I'm sure are garbage, but I can see a garbage charity and point it out.
Yeah, so I don't know, I didn't know anything about this. I just briefly looked it up. The first thing that I found is an article from Politico, or not Politico, but factcheck.org. And apparently this is just not true, at least according to this one article, or at least this is there's some controversy around this.
So
apparently there's Black Lives Matter managing director basically said that all the contributions to the DNC are publicly reported to the FEC, and you can like review the public FEC reports to confirm that there has never been any like extra donations to like other DNC candidates that were meant to go to like Black Lives Matter. Like this.
Yeah, no, there was a lot of misinformation about this, right? And this is right wings people's fault because they didn't understand the process. They thought that you donate to Act Blue and then Act Blue can spend it as they will, but that's not the case. They didn't understand the concept of denying money from Act Blue. So it was that is misinformation. That is untrue. But
wait, then what's
same
your
general
claim?
effect. my claim is that they say that Act Blue gets $500 million, right? That 1,000 Currents or the financial sponsor Black Lives Matter can say we want 50 million every month we're taking out, and 1 month we say we don't want 25 of this million. After 30 days, that 25 million is forfeited to Act Blue. This is their terms of service. What a lot of Republicans were saying, which is misinformation, is that the 500 million lump sum is donated to Act Blue, and then Black Lives Matter, I guess, like just hopes that they get money from Act Blue, but that's not the case.
If that's like their public terms of service, is it really fair to call that like a scam?
Dude, this is your program, right? If you want this, fucking go for it. I don't care if you guys are getting ripped off when you donate to Black Lives Matter, really. I don't think a lot of people think that they're going to end up, donating $20 to Black Lives Matter, and $2 of that makes it to Black Lives Matter chapters. And, 5 of those dollars are denied by the financial sponsor of Black Lives Matter, and instead given to, Chuck Schumer or whatever the fuck.
I mean, that's fine if you want to like take issue with the process. My problem is when you say that something's a scam, it seems like you're implying that there's some like legal malfeasance here, when it seems like they have a public terms of service. You might not like how it operates, but I mean, it is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, listen, I guess it's people's fault for not doing their research on their own, but it's not something that's widely published or like tracked. I think it's something that's hidden from the public at large. That's sort of how it is.
Do you know where Trump's donations go to his campaign, or how he spends those amongst his legal team or anything like that?
I've not looked into that specifically, no. I just thought Black Lives Matter was interesting. I actually happened upon it on chance.
Oh, of course.
I do have 2 questions that people did a video of. Might as well just do those now. I'm going to do from Big Papa Fascist first. So let's see here. It's my first time doing it like this, so let's see how it works.
Big Papa Fascist here. Question for all of you, liberals on the panel. You've spent years, in some cases, calling different conservatives on YouTube Nazis, and they're saying that we use white supremacist language, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which led to the deplatforming of conservatives everywhere, all over YouTube. And now you seem like you're upset because some of you are getting deplatformed. Why should we care? Why shouldn't we just laugh at you?
All right. So that was obviously to Destiny and Mouthy, and I guess the hunter had to leave. His kid woke up or something. I don't know.
I mean, if you want to laugh at it, you can laugh if you want. Sure. I think it's kind of funny when some people have been screaming at people getting deplatformed forever who are getting deplatformed. I'm not one of those people that historically called for deplatforming people, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just like I don't really care. Like, if you think it's funny, that's fine. I'm not here to convince conservatives that they should be convinced about left-wing people being deplatformed, because obviously I don't think that that's going to be borne out. I will say, like, I have generally always opposed deplatforming people just because they say controversial things, because I generally think that, like, obviously there's always a chance that we're going to be incorrect in our positions. And I think sort of like engaging with sort of controversial ideas is a mechanism through which we can be more certain that we're not just sort of echo chambering and deluding ourselves about things. I do think there's a decent case to be made about deplatforming on the basis of spreading misinformation, because it's just like you're not really getting any value out of that in terms of like discourse or exchanging ideas. It's just like a harm on our ability to have conversations.
So we,
Oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry. We talk about like misinformation a lot, but like this is assuming that like we have a bunch of fact checkers on the up and up. Like these guys are not human beings with political biases themselves. I mean, just recently, the New York Times, who is one of these like organizations who people use for fact checking on Facebook specifically, in their legal case with Project Veritas, they're arguing, under oath, that their news articles are protected by the First Amendment because even though they are news articles, not opinion articles, even though the writer of the article is not an opinion writer but rather a news writer, that they are still opinions and therefore protected by the First Amendment. This is literally the sole opinion of the author, so therefore they can't be prosecuted. Well, like we have people coming out here putting forward their political opinions, calling them facts, saying that they're absolute truth, and then deplatforming or destroying those, banning, taking down the posts of those who go against the narrative. That's a bit fucking insane, dude.
This is like so many disconnected arguments. So first of all, like if you're talking about writing op-eds, those are always opinions, even if they are published by. And then secondly, news should always be protected under the First Amendment, regardless. I don't know who would make an argument otherwise.
It in this specific case, it is a news article, an article that is expected to be nonpartisan, an article that is expected to be based on the truth and the ethics of journalism. They did not reach out to any of Project Veritas's people. This is all in the legal document.
There's no requirement when you're writing an article. You don't have to write an article where you're required. When you take journalistic ethics, that's not like a part of the Constitution or something.
We use it as fact checking for the purposes of taking down fact-checked posts.
None of this has anything to do. Yeah, this has nothing to do with the law, though, right? Facebook isn't like adhering to the law when they take down like fact-checked like posts or whatever, right? If you're talking about somebody making a legal argument for why a news organization should exist, we're not using that same basis by which we talk about like deplatforming misinformation online, right?
But how can we call it misinformation when the fact checking comes from what is essentially an under oath considered to be opinions of the author?
Sure, because somebody defending something it's just a different standard by which we evaluate things. So for instance, like one of you guys laughed earlier when you were like, oh, well, we debunked the Trump thing because even under court, they said they didn't incite a riot. Inciting a riot in a legal sense, that's a really big deal. I personally don't think that Trump should have gotten charged for inciting a riot under like a legal sense, because that's a huge thing. And you don't want to have this precedent where like if a president says some things and people riot, now we're like always suing the president. But that doesn't mean that I don't think in a more general or even in a more moral sense, he absolutely incited the riot. Of course he did. Everybody knows that. But there's a difference when we talk about like the legal standard by which we apply to something versus like a standard that a tech company might apply when they ban somebody, or like a general standard we talk about when we talk about like misinformation. These are all like really different standards. I wouldn't appeal to like a legal case defending like the First Amendment right to exist of something to say whether or not it's like factually correct.
Look, if you can't say he legally incited a riot, I don't think that you can say that there's grounds that he, unless he says, you could use these words and say like, oh, fight for this and stuff. But you have politicians on the other side of the aisle saying the very same things. You've seen these compilations of speeches. Yeah, they're out there where
they're not.
A number of times people have said words like fight. I mean, it's a very common political rhetoric.
It's not common. It's actually so uncommon. It's the idea that you have a president that's undermining your own electoral system. Maxine Waters has never said anything remotely comparable to the totality of Trump undermining the entire U.S. system, every single branch of U.S. government, every single agency related to the executive. Like, no, but Maxine Waters, it's not even remotely close.
Can you name a Democratic politician who like continually undermined the legitimacy of an election, which like every court, like the Department of Justice, pretty much every credible person.
Hillary Clinton conceded the next day.
What about the Russian collusion?
Continued to call it illegitimate. Look up.
Illegitimate in what sense?
She didn't even come to.
That is not true. Hillary Clinton did not call the election illegitimate. That's just a total fucking lie.
Hold on.
Can I get a quote? We can hold on all day. Hillary Clinton did not. Trying to say that like a foreign power might have been involved in propagandizing American people, blah, 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 blah. We can have those statements all the damn. That is way different than saying that is for it, but not by it does. It's a different thing. Are these all the same thing to you? Is propaganda to influence an election the same thing as saying the actual vote tallies, the vote tallies were rigged?
Look, if she's saying that Russia influenced the election, I don't see the difference. Either way, you're saying the election is rigged.
It's illegitimizing.
How do you hold on? Wait, hold on. That's just a phenomenal statement. So just so I can be clear, what you just said, you don't see the difference between claiming a foreign actor might have influenced how Americans vote versus saying that the actual vote totals themselves were altered. You don't think there's a difference?
There's obviously a difference, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing, though. You're saying that the election is under question.
Okay,
Well,
I
then
just want to hear that. I just because this is a phenomenal.
That's assuming that it was always this narrative. That's what you ended up with.
No, I want to hear this. I'm just curious if you guys all agree with this. You think at the end of the day, it's more or less the same if there is a foreign actor trying to influence our election as there is people in our own country changing and rigging the vote totals. More or less, it's the same thing at the end of the day.
No, that's not the question that was asked. Somebody just
why are you
asked
backing away from it? I just want to hear somebody own that statement.
Because I got the
Don't say it if you're not going to own it.
She said it. I will say it. I said that Hillary Clinton said that he was an illegitimate president. That's verbatim, and look up the word illegitimate. That's what I said. So you're bouncing the fucking ball around, not me. I'm telling you that the person who ran in 2016 called the incoming person an illegitimate president. That was the whole. Now you can try to explain it away all you want, my guy.
No. The problem is you can say that they both said it's illegitimate, but the point that I think Destiny was making was that what Hillary did with regards to saying the election was illegitimate in your terms is not comparable to what Donald Trump did. So just saying that you can consider both of them claims of illegitimacy is not enough to make your point. You have to make the point that these two claims of illegitimacy are like comparable in their severity and their implications, which they're very obviously not. And not only are they not comparable in terms of their severity or implications, but Hillary Clinton also never called for us overturning the results of the 2016 election because of that Russian influence.
No, they ran a fucking counterintelligence operation. Yeah, while the incoming administration. But we'll talk about that later.
Holy shit! You want to talk about how Trump was apparently tapping the phones of Washington Post reporters? I didn't know we wanted to go into that. We can go there next if you want. That was just released today.
We could go into how Rudy Giuliani's iCloud was taken too. You want to talk about that?
That's because Rudy Giuliani got that Hunter Biden laptop. They had to go. They had to take him down. He was too powerful.
Attorney-client privilege?
Obama tapped Trump during the campaign. Like this, when it first came out, it was a crazy conspiracy theory, misinformation. If you were spreading it, you're a fucking lunatic. And then what happens a few years later? They figure out it's true. Right?
Not Trump though. They tapped. Who was it? He was tapping. It wasn't Trump. It was somebody in his inner circle, Carter Page or something.
Yeah, do you think that's comparable to? Do you think that's comparable on calling for your followers to overturn the results of a democratic election, though?
He was calling on Mike Pence to overturn the results or to do his duty.
You said earlier that he called for people to show up at the Capitol to protest to pressure politicians to overturn the results of the election.
That's First Amendment, man.
The First Amendment
that has nothing to do with
overthrow the government.
Peaceful protesting.
Peaceful protesting. That's what they were doing. They broke into the Capitol.
He literally said at the end of his speech, "We're going to go peacefully protest, patriotically and peacefully protest."
Wait, are we talking about legality or are we talking about the morality of what happened? Because I feel like you're bouncing back and forth really quickly. Because
we're getting too fucked up on partisan shit, right?
You're getting too fucked up on partisan shit.
Your brain is like this.
Look at what you just said to me. I said, "Hey, let's de-escalate. We are getting too fucked up on partisan shit."
You're the revolution.
Piece of shit liar. You're fucked up, not me.
Jesus Christ.
You're making the claim that there is a comparable, there is an adequate comparison between Hillary Clinton conceding and saying there might have been foreign influence and Donald Trump saying that the vote tally was literally rigged by the Democratic Party and calling on his followers to overturn that. And what I'm saying is I don't think these two things are very comparable. I think that's pretty obvious to anyone who's not a partisan hack. You can call that being partisan if you want. I call that being pretty objective. I feel like you're mental gymnasticking yourself really hard into this position.
There's only a multiple year corrupt fucking, a bunch of agents of the left wing investigating him for years and years over.
You think what does an investigation have to do with any of this?
Wait, what do you mean by illegitimate?
Mueller.
How is Mueller illegitimate?
He was like hands and shoulders deep into uranium one.
Was Mueller like?
Uranium one? Wait, are we still? I thought we were done with those conspiracy theories like 3 years ago. We still believe in
What
the
do you mean
uranium
conspiracy
one thing?
theory?
Wait, I'm sorry. Wait.
It literally happened.
What does
Can I-
the uranium one thing mean to you? What do you think that means?
It's just a bunch of people making a bunch of money. Based on being in
That uranium
powerful
one contract needed to be signed off by like 12 different independent bodies. Do you think
Yeah,
that was
12 people. Did these 12 people? Did they have anything to do with Hillary Clinton, perchance?
A lot
Were
of
they
them were
perhaps
absolutely
all
independent from
the
Hillary?
best friends of Hillary
Scipius?
Clinton? Yeah.
Scipius is independent.
So
This is the thing.
I'm
This is
curious.
like
Wait, hold on. I'm curious. Does it bother you that in your world, all of academia is rigged against you, all 3 branches are rigged against you, and all of the media is rigged against you? So literally,
I tried
any
one.
possible piece of evidence we bring up is always going to be handled. We're like, oh, well, they're in bed with Hillary Clinton. Oh, well, that's academia. Oh, well, that's the media. Oh, well, it's all these people. Like, you realize that you've constructed a world where literally every single, or Daddy Trump constructed it for you, where literally every single thing that exists in like all of reality is your enemy. Like, who do you trust for news? Alex Jones? James O'Keefe? Like, who is your go-to for stuff that you can trust?
I trust my eyes and I trust my
You have
dead
no
friends.
answer. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I do my own fucking research. Do you
Wait,
think
can I get
Do
this-
your own
from
research.
Black
What do you
Lives
mean you
Matter
do your?
shit?
But
if
you're
you're
I mean, I
really
read
trusting the
fucking
news in this
30-page
day and
documents like a dweeb, dude.
You're
I don't
not
go to
30-page documents that are
CNN.com.
what? Prepared by lawyers, prepared by judges, prepared by the deep state. Why would you trust those documents any more than the people that read them?
Because I read the primary sources and use my
So
own
you're telling
fucking
me that-
mind to come to conclusions.
You're telling
seriously,
me.
if you're
You're telling
trusting the
me.
news like that, they don't have any bias whatsoever.
Wait,
like
so
they're
you're
a
telling no one is
legitimate source of
hold on, whoa,
information.
slow down. I can't hear you. You ran the goalpost way too far down the field, okay? I'm not saying that nobody has any bias ever. I'm just saying that it's funny to me that you think there's this massive conspiracy that involves several government agencies, all the media, and all of academia, but you are so smart. You found a way to defeat it all because they didn't alter the primary documents. They have all this power. They've infiltrated every single sector of society, but they couldn't make it past you, the guy banned from TikTok, because they didn't edit the primary sources.
It's not a fucking like aliens coming down and invading.
No one
our
said it
fucking
was. You're the
brain
one that said
scenario.
you're all power.
You know,
Talking about
there's just a
aliens.
bunch of greedy fucking people, all right? There's just a bunch of greedy people.
Okay,
That's
walk
the
it back.
entire
All right,
conspiracy.
walk it
What do you
back.
mean?
All right.
Everyone's,
Walk it back.
everyone's
Walk it back.
aliens
can I have, like-
investing us. No,
Yeah,
there's
make
a
it
bunch
sound
of
like
greedy
aliens.
people who
Walk it
have
back.
gotten up to ambitious positions of power and who are using it to enrich themselves and their family, just like Joe Biden.
And
did with
somehow
his-
Trump, one of the
his
richest people
brother.
in the world, by the way, somehow Trump is being superseded by fucking Obama, by poor
Dude, I
Senator
barely even
Biden,
like
by
Trump.
fucking
I
Hillary
barely
Clinton.
even like Trump, dude.
Well, according to the New York Times, he doesn't have that. He doesn't really have that much money at all.
What do you mean? Who said the New York Times didn't say he didn't have that much money? What are you talking
Because
about?
remember when the whole
The
tax thing
taxes,
came out?
remember?
Yeah, I saw the tax thing. I read that entire article. What about it?
Well, I mean, you're saying that he's one of the richest guys in the world, and they're saying he's practically broke.
They didn't say that, but it's cool that you didn't read it and you just revealed in 4K. Everybody saw you. So they obviously didn't read the fucking article. What they said was he had a fuck ton of liabilities to foreign entities. Wait, I'm sorry. I'm being really mean to you, and I shouldn't be. I'm trying to be mean to the Wurzel guy. I'm sorry. No, but like that particular article didn't say that he was broke. They just said he had a fuck ton of liabilities outstanding that were held in some cases in other countries. I don't think they said that he was broke. They didn't make any statements about his net worth. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it was Bloomberg or Wall Street Journal like did an article where their estimation was like he's probably still worth around like $3 billion once you take like all of his assets less his liabilities.
Well, the way they made it sounded like he was in trouble.
I mean, people reporting in the media might have made it sound like that, but the main trouble wasn't that he's broke. The trouble is that it's just
I know
kind
the
of
article
weird.
was like a mile long, but I did read it.
Okay. Well, the scary part, the trouble was that he might be, if he loses a court case with the IRS, he's going to be in debt theoretically by quite a much of money. And he has a lot of like foreign liabilities to his money as well. That's just a weird spot for the president of the United States to be making decisions on foreign policy or trade policy when he has
Which
personal
country?
liabilities.
Which country specifically?
There's a ton listed under his debtors. I think Germany was one where there was a lot. There might have been Dutch banks. I think there might have been some Russian banks. I'd have to go back. I don't remember exactly the ones.
Oh,
but I know that there were,
sneaky Russians. God damn.
I know that you're
right.
like so horny and hard to hear the word Russian so that you can
I
freak
am.
out over it. But like
I
there were
am.
lots of different companies listed. If you want to go and read the article, you can yourself. But like, I mean, I think that and it's funny because if it was a Democrat in the same position, you guys would be down their fucking throat over this. But like having a president of your country that has like a lot of foreign liabilities, it's pretty scary, I think.
Well, it
I'm
just
also
seems like
interested in-
it seems like it's like either Trump's like the most richest, powerful guy, or he's like he's broke. I mean, it's pretty much whatever suits people. At
No,
mean,
I don't
speaking of-
think I actually said
speaking of-
anything related to that at all. I think I said that Trump is one of the wealthiest men in the world, and he has a lot of foreign liabilities. If you think that there's a contradiction in those two statements, I'll be happy to explain why there's not. but I don't think
super
anything is
curious about
contradictory
this
to those.
because you bring up like inconsistency and like how we're appealing to sources, but it seems like you'll talk like extensively about how the New York Times and all the news sources are rigged and biased, and then when Destiny brings up the point about Trump having a lot of money, you say, oh, but according to the New York Times, he doesn't have that much money. Similarly, Alex will say stuff about how Trump was totally exonerated in the Russian probe, and then later on say that Mueller was some biased partisan hack who was out to get Trump, even though it was his document which supposedly totally exonerated Trump in Trump's own words. So I'm just kind of confused about like how these usages of sources is like consistent in any way.
Well, I'm just saying that's what they said.
Yeah, he was making a point about their narrative. That was the entire point of what he
wait.
said.
So I'm curious, if all of these people are so rigged against Trump and hate him so much, why didn't Mueller just dole up fake charges?
Well,
I don't know,
it seems
man.
like
It's so crazy.
whatever he did didn't work.
Do you think if you don't know
it's just-
that, that's maybe like reason to
It's-
reflect on like the framework with which you're approaching this?
And this is kind of like
Why don't people just go full corrupt? I don't know. Maybe there's a bit of tact.
They're only going
I don't know,
to
maybe.
It's always like this is how like every conspiracy
just
theory dies or
wouldn't
doesn't
hold
work
up,
is because
maybe
like you have like these all powerful like entities that control so many parts of the government, but then they all get cracked by one guy reading primary sources on fucking YouTube, or like they had all the power to do all this shit, but they didn't think of this one thing that would have saved them everything, right? Like why? Like people will say like, oh, the 2016 election was rigged. Really? Then why'd they lose by like 20,000 votes? Like
Yeah,
I don't know, it's just so
all your
funny.
politicians love you, man. They're just trying to do things for your own benefit. They
No,
just
okay,
like
so
really
you're
have a
trying to
lot in
say that,
common
like,
with you.
you're
All these
saying that
You're the one that
corporations,
thinks
they fucking love
I
you.
think that a senator that has a net worth of $5 million has more in common with me than fucking Donald Trump, who's worth billions. And if you think anything different, I'm sorry, dude, but you're the tool.
I like how you're trying to make the claim that like our narrative is implausible when you're the one positing that Mueller was so corrupt that he was out to get Trump to overturn the results of the election, but then he released a document which exonerated Trump. And similarly, the Democrats were so concerned with overturning the results of the election that they cheated and manufactured all these ballots for Biden and still got fucking wiped out in the House of Representatives and the Senate.
Well, who
It just
said
seems
that?
like
Exactly.
what kind of like dumb fucks are concocting these conspiracies where they're like going halfway to like fuck over Trump, but then like they just decide to quit there and like that's it. Like I don't understand.
Is there like no such thing as like nuance in the world? There's no such thing as like subversive methods. It's not like, oh, let's just like fuck with them. Let's do this in order to harm chances in the midterms.
Mhm.
Let's do this in order to achieve political
You have
capital.
a conspiracy for
Well,
everything,
why don't
dude.
they
You're
just shoot
untouchable.
Donald Trump? What's
You're
going on?
actually you're untouchable. Well, you say that like, well, why don't you just shoot Donald Trump? But I bet you believe they killed Seth Rich, right? You've got an out for everything. There's literally nothing that somebody can say because it's either like, well, they've got the power to do everything, or well, in that particular case, they didn't want to go far enough. And it's like, well, the media lied about it because academia lies about it because the entire deep state is lying about it. And it's like, but not that much because you have an out for everything. Like you're literally an unbeatable debate pony. You're a master debater. You have conspiracies for everything, but not
You just like
conspiracies are so
project
strong.
so many of your like preconceptions onto me. It's like we're not having a conversation or like a debate here. We're just having like a little funny like sparring thing, which you know I'm all for. I think it's hilarious.
Well, you already said that you
but-
wanted to have a funny sparring thing when you were laughing about having sources. Like, what's it like? being
I was
successfully
laughing
trapped
about
in high
Hunter
school?
Avallone
Like,
coming on.
Jesus
I was so
Christ.
excited for that, and then he ran away. You know, it's
Hunter
fucking-
He didn't run away. He's still here. But I mean, like, dude,
No,
you're on
he left.
TikTok. How are you? Oh, did he leave? Oh, wait, did you? Damn, you bullied him out. How?
yeah. I did that to
Wow.
Nick videos on TikTok too. I got him on and I challenged him to a wrestling match to the death in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean where there's no laws. And then he left the chat.
He left a while ago. Yeah. Yeah, okay. I don't know if we should play
I
this
got my
other
daughter's
video.
piano
let's get to
recital coming up,
questions.
guys. I gotta get out of here.
All right, I'm just curious. What do you guys think about in terms of the coronavirus when that hit and YouTube's removing videos from, other doctors out there sharing their thoughts and opinions on
Other
it?
quote unquote doctors. I think that the coronavirus is just the most
No, I
ironic way
legit.
for
No,
him-
I'm saying like legit doctors. There were
legit doctors that were
who had their
peddling
content.
conspiracy theory bullshit. Like for the people that were trying to say that it came from a fucking lab or that it's not real or
No,
like you
not
could-
that. No. But basically, just having a difference of opinion from Fauci
a difference of opinion about what?
in terms of how harmful the virus was.
Yeah, most of these people should not only be banned, they should lose their fucking medical license. Like the harm has never been that it's going to kill everybody or that like young people are dying or whatever. The problem is that there are certain people in society that are vulnerable to it, and that even at a very low fatality rate, if you're getting hundreds of millions of infections, like shit is going to get fucked up. And the fact that we like still haven't gotten over this because there are still people with these like political vested interests in saying that it's fake, or there are these entertainers online that like to spread the idea that vaccines don't work or that the coronavirus isn't a big deal. Like then we're still fucking stuck in this, and that India might give us a whole new fucking virus that now we're fucked for another like 3 years. I don't know. It's incredibly infuriating to me. Like it's one of the few things.
The problem is that people often say this thing where it's like, well, why aren't you allowed to just disagree with the mainstream narrative or the experts? The problem is that you totally are allowed to disagree with like certain things that experts say. In fact, experts debate all the time and argue all the time about the details of certain things. The problem comes when people are disagreeing with the experts about things on issues that the evidence is so overwhelmingly clear on that you're essentially throwing away all credibility and trying to like disagree with certain narratives, like whether we're talking about like hydroxychloroquine or like whether or not masks are effective and shit like that. There's just really no debate in terms of like the political evidence on these things, or political or empirical evidence on these things. So yeah, I guess it just seems like a smokescreen to say like, well, why can't we disagree, and then like peddle in certain ideas that are just totally unplausible.
But no, it's dangerous when information is coming from one particular source.
Well, it wasn't coming from. It wasn't like
from one particular source. No, if it's coming from, well, you know, because we've had differences of opinion when it came to the CDC or when it came to the WHO. You know, but I'm saying is like when Fauci seems to be the only one, pretty much the authority on the subject.
So that's supposed to be the case in pandemics. And in fact, it's part of like the rule book when dealing with pandemics that you're supposed to have like one expert who's like going out there and giving takes, because if there's too many people doing public advocacy and like the message gets conflicted, it makes people confused about how to handle the virus. So was there debate among different experts and different organizations about particular details? And did that inform the change in like what Fauci said over the course of the virus? Yeah, of course. But generally speaking, we want like one public facing figure to be the person who's like informing the public about these issues to avoid confusion. And that was one of the big problems is like when Trump came out and Trump started saying shit like, no, actually Fauci's wrong. And actually this is what you should do. And actually masks don't work. This sort of created that conflict, which the guidelines for dealing with pandemics were trying to avoid and setting up that precedent, which is why so much shit got fucked with like dumb fuck Republicans like walking into stores without their masks and forcing security to drag them out and shit because Trump said they weren't effective.
That's boomers. Boomers are retarded right and left. Yeah, no, I agree. I feel like it's always cringe when like, you know, some like 18-year-old who thinks he has like, you know, 180 IQ reads some fucking study that they have no grasp of, you know, the greater.
I thought you said you read primary sources.
No, I do, but I know my limitations, bro.
Oh, good.
You know, I
act like it.
You know, like it is silly, so I agree with that. You know, if we want to talk about vaccine on our tech censorship panel, we can. I just think it's a bit silly that it hasn't, you know, it's not been this long. It was a rushed virus vaccine, and you know, to me that doesn't sound like a fucking plus. That sounds like a big negative. I just want to wait, man. And if I get it, I think
mRNA vaccines been being developed for decades.
Yeah,
developed for decades with pretty horrible results long term.
Well,
yeah,
we've had breakthroughs. That's welcome to like all of technology. What do you mean?
Yeah,
like,
man. And if it was tested for the full fucking 2 or 3 years, whatever the fuck vaccines are supposed to be in testing rotation for long-term effects, then, you know, I'd be happy to take it. I'm not anti-vaxxer.
We don't know
that develop something in 6 months and it's perfectly safe long-term. I don't.
You know what's probably not safe long-term is hundreds of millions / billions of people around the planet passing this coronavirus back and forth. forth, and us getting more and more fucking variants out of it. Nothing is more funny to me than Americans that will line up outside of fucking McDonald's, like wait for to fill their bodies with fucking, you know, double cheeseburgers and chicken nuggets, and they'll fucking vape on like fucking cherry flavored shit that they bought in some bootleg Chinese store or some shit, and then they'll be like, I don't want to put that vaccine in my body. That body, it might fucking hurt. It might hurt me. Like,
well, and also we talk
the
about
problem,
this vaccine so much, but we don't talk about microplastics. We don't talk about fertility crisis. We don't talk about like anything.
We need to like chill out on that really quickly. I'm just kind of like interested because like it's true that we don't like know for certain the long-term effects of the vaccine because it hasn't been tested for that long. But we also don't know the long-term effects of COVID. And it seems like pretty much every credible source is saying that the long-term effects of COVID are likely to be worse than the long-term effects of the vaccine. This is why like the educated people, like the doctors, I read one survey that something like over like 90% of doctors or like experts in the field got the vaccine like as soon as it was available, right? So it's like, I mean, we could concern troll about like the potential long-term effects of the virus, but this seems like kind of counterproductive.
Or all the world leaders that are getting it too, but maybe you guys think that's fake.
You
Maybe
guys
they're just
told us
faking getting
don't trust Trump, and then you want us to run out and get a vaccine that was developed under his administration.
Trump had nothing to do with the development of the vaccine. Wait, do you think Trump was in the lab developing?
Yes, I do. I think he added the bleach. I think he added the mercury. I do, because he was.
Well, the good thing about not being the good thing about not being like a lunatic partisan hack conspiracy theorist is that I don't have to take up insane positions like Trump helped fund the vaccine, so it's probably like poisoned. I know that's probably what you would be doing if like the vaccine was developed under Biden. And I do think it's interesting that like you tried to call out hypocrisy in that front, but it's actually Republicans who think that Trump is like a god who like was responsible for the creation of vaccine, and who Trump was saying that everyone should take the vaccine, and Republicans still don't want to take the vaccine because it's being administered under Biden, which is even like more ludicrous.
I'm not a partisan conspiracy theory hack. I just eat fucking CNN DVDs and fucking New York Times articles whole to get my fucking IQ up, dude. Dude, come the fuck on. You're projecting all this bullshit onto people because, you know, you've been in your room with your fucking pea spanner jerking off for the last fucking 48 hours straight.
Dude, you say
like,
that
we live in the world, dude. All right.
You say,
you know,
okay, you say that
you
like
can't just
I'm not
subscribe
a
all these
lunatic.
negative shit that you read on Twitter onto people. All these negative qualities you don't like because you're smarter than everyone. I used to be a left-wing libertarian.
Just you. I don't have
this
to.
This guy does his own research. Okay, this guy has read the entire Wikipedia article on Project Veritas. Okay, he knows what's going on. He read primary sources, and when I say read primary sources, I mean he listened to Alex Jones talk about them. Okay, this guy knows what's up. All right.
I read the quote
I don't have to ascribe any negative qualities to you. Any single like negative epistemic quality that I could ascribe to you has already been ascribed to you by yourself throughout this debate. I mean, you're literally saying like, I don't trust studies. Also, I read primary sources, and fucking Mueller is a partisan hack, and also his document exonerated Donald Trump. You clearly don't have like any consistency or like a modicum of like critical thought with which you engage with these issues. I don't really think I need to like come up with any like big brained insults in order to demonstrate that.
I mean, yeah. If you misrepresent any of all of my points, yeah,
everything's a misrepresented. Okay.
Well, yeah. I made fun of Hunter Avallone for his studies, which were bullshit and retarded, and got.
Why were they bullshit studies? Wait, have you read any of them?
Have you not back read those in fucking 2017, sources? Man.
Oh,
yeah.
But you can't remember. You can't remember.
I remember back in 2017, I looked at them. Yes, and I remember back in 2017, I looked at people bringing up other studies which made fun of him. All right.
Oh, okay.
When we were talking about studies,
so when you say you read primary sources,
we were talking about
watch,
studies
like,
about
an alternative hypothesis video. Okay.
What?
So you guys,
this world rotate around 2017 for this kid? Listen, you know, when we were talking about studies and the validity of studies, it differs for fields. Okay, we can talk about an economic study, and there's huge credibility to it, and obviously there's different people with different.
But not
biases.
Sociology. They're both
when we're
social
talking about whether or not tech is
about?
censoring. When we talk about tech censorship, where did the fucking data come from? The amount of bands raw number without any nuance?
No.
Yes, I did, and that's what it is. The amount of raw counts in their self-subscribed fucking ideology and their
if you read the
bands,
studies and you are currently claiming that you knew where the data come from, can you tell us right now where it came from, or can you conveniently not remember that?
can I conveniently not remember every detail of a study
Okay,
from
all right. Yeah,
2017?
we can
They
move
came
on. It's
from
okay.
different
You don't have to lie
self-ascribed
to me.
ideologies.
Wait, Alex,
and
you don't have to lie to me. It's okay.
it
This
came
is a
from
safe space.
self-ascribed ideologies, and the banned percentage
What are you
of these
talking
people.
about?
The self-appointed, whatever the fuck you want, bro. Listen, but does that have the R squared of like the majority? I'd say fucking not. You know, what are other
What are you
huge
talking
factors?
about? You're
R
just like
squared.
using words from like statistics 101 classes. This doesn't
guys-
mean anything.
I'm using
So-
very
What is the
common
R
words.
squared? What
R
do you
squared
mean?
is the percent of
I know what an R squared is. That it didn't make any sense in the context you were bringing it up.
No, it absolutely did. The amount of causation or the amount of effect which can be described by a independent dependent variable to an independent variable. You fucking ditz.
You don't think
Listen.
these? Wait. You
Hey,
don't think
hey,
studies included
dumbass,
an R squared
listen
variable,
the fuck
but you
up,
can't
you
even.
little autism
Your
brain
claim,
is thinking too fast. You can't fucking listen. Listen for 1 second, you little
Alex,
fucking
I just
retard.
think it's really funny that you
God, he's
claim
getting so mad.
that you read these studies and you can't remember the studies, but you can remember that they didn't assess causation. It's interesting how the extent to which you remember the studies fluctuates based on what question I'm asking you at a given point in time.
The amount I remember is I don't remember the specific details of different percentages.
But you
all right?
remember the
I remember
R squared
the conclusions.
correlations.
It's weird that I remember the conclusions, but I don't remember the fucking specific data itself. The R
I don't think
squared
that's
was
weird at all.
me
I mean, that's pretty
positing
typical of
that
people
there
who
is
don't read
other
studies.
dependent variables which influence the independent variables, which are more
Which other independent variables?
explanative.
Which ones?
Like personal interactions with the different moderators on YouTube or these different tech platforms. People at a high enough level have personal connections with these people, but how the fuck do you understand
Are you
that
just-
if you
you're
don't
making
you
this
don't
up.
Put it?
How
What
do you
the
know
fuck?
that the,
I
how
live
do you
in this
know that the
world. I have a
organization-
contact at fucking TikTok, dude.
Okay?
What do you mean?
I know that you
what?
think that
Maybe
your
you
lived
with your 4,000
experience is.
followers don't have a contact with
Listen,
fucking YouTube,
okay?
but bigger people do. All right,
I know-
bro?
I
It's
know
a
that
like
real
Steven
world.
Crowder with 5 million subscribers? Should he have a contact at YouTube?
He probably should. Yes.
Well, then why did he get deplatformed?
Probably because they have a bias, man. Probably because they didn't want him, even though he's a fucking.
Well, actually, I think what's happened is now we've revealed that your R squared is actually not accurate, and it seems like the independent variable that you brought up was just thoroughly debunked
Whoa,
by your own
bro.
example, bro.
You're just
Are
saying-
you questioning statistical analysis? What's
Alex,
going on here, big boy?
Alex, you're not doing statistical analysis. You just said that there are potential other variables that are influencing the results of these studies, and you bring up
Yes.
some potential examples.
Yes.
But you need to actually
Yeah.
get. Yeah, but you could do that with literally any study. Every single study you will ever read has some degree of limitations, some degree of exogenous variables that could be influencing the results theoretically.
Yeah,
Yes,
but
Generally
nobody in
speaking-
any of
That's
those
the
studies
majority
ever
of the
thought
R
of any
squared.
of
It
those.
doesn't matter, dude. That means that you're drawing incorrect conclusions
No,
from
it
your
doesn't.
correlation.
The fact that a
Yes, it
study
does.
has a limitation or potential exogenous variable
But if that
influencing the
limitation is
results,
so severe,
generally
it makes the
speaking in
study
academia, generally speaking in academia, people don't say, "Oh, this study has potentially exogenous variables, therefore we're going to discard the entire conclusion." Generally, we say, "Okay, the evidence currently points to this thing, but further research is probably needed to make sure that these exogenous variables are not influencing the results." That is how intelligent people think about data. You're just saying,
That's
I
all
don't
I said.
remember the
That's
study.
literally
I
what
don't
said.
remember the sample size. I don't remember what the sample groups consisted of, but I'm imagining that there may have been some exogenous variable that skewed the results. So I'm going to completely discard the study and say it was debunked.
As
This is
someone
not how
who is
intelligent people think
embroiled
about studies.
in it, I know that there are different factors.
I'm sorry.
which
I know
which-
you like to pivot. Like you bring up like data, and then I explain how your understanding of data is not accurate, and then you bring up like, oh, my lived experience, bro. I don't care about your lived experience because it doesn't
My lived
sound like you
experience
have.
as someone who
It
is in
doesn't
this,
sound
dude.
like you have the intelligence.
What
to,
is this like
properly
autism
interpret
train where
any
he just
sense
fucking
data
talks
that,
for like
accrues to you?
7 years and never shuts the hell up, dude? Like you're saying fucking
sorry, okay.
nothing.
Get-
You're
what's your
saying like
intelligent point?
absolutely nothing, man.
That's
I'm
okay.
saying that there are multiple dependent variables which have an effect on the independent variable. Through
is how
my own
every study works,
experience
yes.
in this field, these different variables, which are not described in the specific studies that he uses to forward his point, are more important than this one variable, which barely is even related, okay? And which has its own fucking issues of any sort of correlation being relevant, okay? Like, we're arguing about hypothetical studies and their
Do you
validity.
remember what independent variables these studies controlled for, and can you list them off to me?
Well, it would be dependent variables that are controlled for, not like independent
Okay, wait.
variables.
But which ones
There's
did they
one
control for?
independent
Which ones did they
variable.
control for?
There's like 7 different studies. I believe the one study
Dude,
specifically.
you can't do this.
Boy, listen the fuck up. I
Okay.
believe in this specific study, it was only the described ideology of the person who was banned and the amount of people banned in that specific category, and he determined, oh well, since it's about even, therefore there's not really a bias, and if anything, oh, it's fucking left wing because of all these reasons. Okay,
So here's the thing, okay? Because
Okay,
I
we're gonna
understand.
move on after this.
Okay, sure. So because I actually understand how like data is generally interpreted
Dude,
in
you're a
like
genius.
academic
It's easy.
circles,
Yeah.
I can
Oh,
say that
You know, I went
I'm
to
probably-
college,
wait,
right?
okay,
Like I'm
that's-
20.
that's
I
great.
have like
Okay.
5 degrees. Like I'm in this
5
shit. I
of
have an
them?
economics degree. Yeah,
Wow,
minors and majors.
that's pretty
bro.
cool, dude. Anyways, so
Wait, just real quick. I just think it's really funny. You have an econ degree, and you brought up economics as like the hard science studies that are taken more seriously in the world of academia. That's really funny to me. I'm sorry, Mouthy, keep going.
Yeah, anyways, so like it's just like because I generally understand how like data is interpreted, I can comfortably say that if a study generally points in one direction, we can say that that conclusion is generally indicative of something. Sure, there are always going to be certain things which could potentially influence the results of that study, but until you can actually name me what those are and present me evidence that within the sample group of the study, that was a relevant factor that skewed the data in the way that you're saying it is skewed, which you have not presented me an argument to that effect, then you just sort of blankly, vaguely alluding to the fact that there's methodological limitations in the study doesn't really mean anything, okay? Because that's always going to be the case in any study ever.
That is exactly what I said, that the dependent variable that is being given is not sufficiently explanatory of the effects on the independent variable.
That doesn't mean anything. You're not making any specific methodological critiques of the study.
I am.
No.
I am.
You
That
are
is a
vaguely
specific-
alluding.
You don't know what you're talking about. Give it up. You don't know what you're talking about, sir.
You are vaguely
You don't know
alluding
what
to
you're
the
talking about, sir.
possibility of
You
the
don't know what
presence
you're
of
talking about.
methodological limitations.
I
that you have
didn't.
not
I've explained it
specifically
fucking
presented.
thoroughly, dude. Fucking listen for 2 seconds.
Okay, wait.
You don't know what you're talking
You're
about.
saying words like dependent variable and independent variable.
Do you know? Do
But
you need
you
definitions?
have yet
You need definitions for
you
those
have yet
terms?
to. I know what the terms
Yeah?
mean, but you are saying these words, but you have yet to explain what you need to explain in order to make this argument, which is you have to look at the sample size of the study and explain that the exogenous factors that you're alluding to as possibilities of things that influence the results actually were significantly influencing the results within that study among the sample group being analyzed in the direction that you are saying they influenced them in. If you can't do that, which you haven't, all you can do is really allude to words like dependent variables and independent variables, then your critique doesn't really have any merit. And if I suggest for your own sake, you should move off this topic because you already said that you don't remember the studies.
Dude, you don't know what
So
the
if
fuck
you
is
can't,
happening, dude.
if
We've
you
been
can't
trying.
remember the details of the
You guys-
studies or the sample groups,
This is
then
such
you can't really
autism,
give a
dude.
meaningful
Chill.
critique of it.
Mouthy,
Okay.
You don't know
We're
what
moving
you're talking
on.
about. Chill out, dude. You have
All
autism.
right. So okay,
Good
that
one.
was fun. Okay, so
Am I wrong?
We're gonna go into the Q&A.
Am I wrong? I'm not.
What?
All right, so let's just go. I'm gonna do
Hello.
the last video question.
You've
and
been
then
wrong
we'll,
about most things you've said today.
and then we'll get
Not
into.
that one though.
All right, everyone, pipe down.
Simply epic.
Okay, so yeah, we're gonna do the last video
Agora tip to you, my
question that
friend.
was sent in, and if you guys have questions, start tagging politically provoked, and we'll get to some of those, and then we're gonna start shutting it down. So let's just get to this this one from. I know we got off topic, but whatever.
Yeah,
I think it's fine. All right.
Good evening, Politically Provoked, and good evening to the panel. My name is Alex Kirsch, and I am the host of the podcast Death the Perspective, where the truth has no bias. And my question is pretty simple, and it's pretty straightforward. In your opinion, when it comes down to content creation, no matter how controversial or what some people may consider offensive, should the government be the one to step in and put an end to it? Or should the free market be the one to continue to decide, and why?
The
Go
government
around and we'll
absolutely
stand
should
for-
not be the one to step in and do anything about it.
And
but
we'll
I don't
start with
think
Destiny.
Okay, sorry. I thought we were still open. Okay. Yeah, but no, of course the government shouldn't.
All right, go ahead, Mouthy.
Yeah, I agree with Destiny. I don't think the government should have a hand in like censoring like controversial speech.
Wurzel.
No, I don't think corporations or the corporate-owned media should do that. I don't think the government should either. I
When
think
you
it
say
should be
corporate-owned media,
a dog pile. The fact that all the different media outlets, CNN, NBC, ABC, are owned by 5 corporations is what I mean.
Okay, and John?
Yeah, of course. I don't think the government should either.
All right, so we all agree on something. That's exciting. All right, so let's see if we can get to some of the questions. All right, so I am not reading these, so you guys, please don't do any prank fucking questions. I get that all the time, and it's fucking annoying. Okay, so from Nicholas V to Mouthy, when it comes to censorship, it seems like Italians are disproportionately banned on all platforms. What do you think?
This is a troll question.
Is it? What the fuck, you guys? Like, what the fuck? Okay, fine. I'm gonna play this like that.
I'm
Okay.
Italian. It sounds
Are
correct.
you? And you've been censored, haven't you? Okay, fucking A. I lost.
oh well,
all
then in
my
that case, yeah, I guess
No,
so.
they're
Probably
yeah.
seems like a smart move.
Oh. Okay. You guys
Still
have
doing
lost
better
the
than
fucking
you.
questions. We have an issue here. My questions are gone. So. Okay, wait. Ask Destin. Oh no, I'm not gonna do that one either. These fucking people are pissing
Wait, I
me
can
off.
do it. I can ask him.
No,
I can
we're
ask
not
him.
doing that one. Okay. Should bread tuber from Z? Should bread tubers who advocate Marxist revolution be banned?
Yep.
If they're talking about like violent revolution, when they're saying shit like "eat the rich" and shit, yeah, I think that shit is cringe as fuck.
True.
Okay.
No.
No.
No, I think they should. It's really funny.
Okay. All right. So from based homeschool mom, I can't even get to these questions. It's a mess. For all, what do you think about Nick Fuentes being put on the no-fly list?
Seems a bit extreme.
No fly lists are really rough. It's probably important that we have tools to deal with people that we think might be dangerous, but the problem of them having like, it seems I'm talking a little bit my ass. I don't think there's much oversight on these when it comes to legal matters. Like I know you don't have to have like a warrant or like a reasonable suspicion to no fly list somebody. I think most people have issues with them for that reason. So I don't know.
Wurzel.
I don't think he should be. I think
Wow.
it's
Dollar store Nick
yeah.
Fuentes doesn't think Nick Fuentes should have been put on the no-fly list. That's a shock.
Who the fuck are you? Dollar Store
one.
Destiny? Epic.
I guess so.
Yeah. Googling studies halfway through the debate to make an epic own moment.
Listen,
Yeah.
I wasn't Googling any studies. You're the one who claimed to read studies that you couldn't remember the details of. except
Okay.
for
We're
when I
past
asked you.
Studygate. Studygate's
Okay,
over.
okay.
We'll have you guys come on and debate studies.
Wait, did
I do
John-
think it's really funny that earlier, this is funny to me, is that you did Google a Politico thing, and this guy thinks that that's like a study. So it's funny because he does his own homework when he really means he probably reads shit from like fucking James O'Keefe, because that's a study to him. It's like an op-ed.
No, I think that's silly. You're silly, Destiny.
Destiny.
Good
You're
Did
a
John-
silly man.
Did John
Silly.
answer that one? Because
Yeah, I said it was extreme. I thought it was
Okay.
unnecessary for him to be on the no-fly zone or no-fly whatever.
All right, so from Nina Infinity, and I think that's a friend of yours, John. So, how do you guys explain Crowder being demonetized after having massive watch numbers, bigger than MSN numbers?
I don't think anyone denies that like shadow banning is or like anything like that is a thing. I don't know. I'm speaking for other people.
Yeah, but it wasn't just that. Crowder is completely demonetized on YouTube. I don't know why. I don't know if it's an advertiser thing or what. I have no idea. I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier, but I don't know why. I do know that political content in general on YouTube is in a really rough spot. Even if you are left-leaning, advertisements, there's a lot of channels that get demonetized on YouTube that do any type of political stuff at all. And you're put in like different categories for advertisements and everything too. It's pretty difficult on YouTube for doing any political shit.
Mouthy?
Yeah, I don't really know. I can't really remember what Steven Crowder was demonetized for. It seems like he was pretty blatantly violating like TOS. Like the shit about like the black farmers was one of the most aggressively racist rants I've seen in a really long time. I think he was demonetized once for like repeatedly harassing that like Carlos Maza guy for being gay or something.
I don't think he got in any trouble for that, which was strange.
Did
to me.
he? Oh, I thought.
And
I
can
remembered.
Carlos unblock me? I will be nice. It was.
Listen, there's no need to be nice to Carlos Maza. It's okay.
Okay, and then
But yeah,
John?
it seems like Steven Crowder's done things that have broken TOS. Whether or not that TOS is like justified or whether or not he should have been is like a different question. But I don't know.
Did you answer? It's your friend's question.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Crowder goes, you know, if you go against the policies of YouTube, you know, especially if you have a bigger platform too, it's going to be, they're going to put a bullseye, you know, you're going to be out there in the open. So I don't necessarily, I'm looking up right now exactly why he got demonetized, but you know, if they have, again, if you go against anything that they have in their terms of service, you know, once you get in that territory, you kind of put yourself in a dangerous spot. So I don't, you know, I don't think it's necessarily, you know, because you've had other people getting deplatformed as well on the other side. So I don't necessarily know if it's strictly just a, you know, strictly a party thing.
Okay. We're going to take a couple more questions and we're going to shut it down. So from Nicholas, no jokes this time. Yeah, right. Okay. For Wurzel, if TikTok keeps shadow banning, why don't you go to the new awesome platform Gab and try to pioneer a free speech platform? You have a Gab, don't you?
Yeah, I have a Gab. I got like 30-something thousand followers in a month, so it's you know, you guys can shit on Gab all you want, but maybe Destiny you can stream fucking on Gab in a few months. You know, yeah, I'm on there. I think that like a huge limitation to these alt platforms is that a lot of them are garbage. And yeah, I'm just gonna go back on TikTok in a bit whenever I stop being. It's just boring, you know. TikTok, it's just boring these days. They've just turned it into a softcore porn app, and you know, same as Twitch these days. Now that since Destiny gone, they're all in fucking bikinis and bathtubs these days. You know,
There's like a follower function.
That's what ads fucking love. You know, is naked women.
Okay. From Big Poopy Fart Face, are big tech platforms too powerful and should they be broken up via antitrust? Let's start with Mouthy.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't really I haven't read much about like antitrust monopoly stuff, so I don't really have a strong opinion on this either way.
All right, Destiny.
That's a complicated conversation. That's probably not good for this. It's a whole other discussion.
Okay, Alex.
I think the bigger issue is in the supply chain. They have vertical alliances and like horizontal monopolies. But yeah, I support fucking with them. I think they should be fucked with a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I think they definitely need to be. There needs to be a higher level of account for sure.
We're going to end it at that one. I just want to thank you guys all for coming on. Sorry about Nick that somebody died.
Wait, who was it? Which Nick are you talking? Was it Fuentes?
No. I actually was going to try to get him on last minute, but it was just too last minute.
Oh.
But yeah, no. So thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.
Remember to hit that like and subscribe, and don't forget the notification bell so that my videos show up right in your feed.
Man, I'm talking about my dick pics. Holy shit, that's like a 9-year-old meme. That guy must have been a hardcore fan. That guy was a dedicated Destiny.reddit.com poster.